Jim mentions undoing things. There is this shakeup of the Dow today. NVIDIA is being added to the blue chip index, and as a result, Intel is out after a 25-year run. S&P Dow Jones Indices says it wanted to ensure a representative exposure to semis. Sherwin-Williams will join the Dow as well, replacing Dow Inc., and those changes effective prior to the open of trading on Friday. Jim today mentions the lack of money index to the Dow.
I mean, this is the type of thing, before David gets into his atavistic rap about Dow.
Thank you.
Dow Jones. This came out, I was doing my show. I have a show.
Yes.
And every time I say my show, my wife says it's the network show, it's not your show.
It is, they own it.
Right. But suddenly NVIDIA's up 3 on this. Of course, David, there's no money really indexed to
There's no money indexed to it.
This reverses.
Atavistic,
right? This
anachronistic, however you want to talk about it, something out of its proper place and time. It is a price-weighted index. It is statistically insignificant. They had to keep it price-weighted because they started it that way, and why we even spend time talking about it is beyond.
Okay, I'll tell you why. We do, because even though I say NVIDIA, only don't trade it, NVIDIA will go back to where it was Friday before this announcement came, and Intel is the one you want to buy. Pat Gelsinger and I, tight.
What did you just say? What came out of your mouth just now?
Told you, Pat Gelsinger and I are tight. That stock's done going down. It's ridiculous.
The sun also rises. I'm just reading it now. Tight means drunk. Just letting you know.
Pat's not even
Hemingway.
Pat doesn't drink.
I know. I'm just saying. Things change. But back then,
talk about being inconsistent. Isn't he a Wall of Shame alum?
You were drunk.
No, Intel bottomed. That was a very good quarter. Pat Gelsinger showed tremendous humility. And I think that matters because before we got bravado, and he basically said, listen, we're a little behind. We're going to catch up. They don't have any really
Speaking of inconsistencies, are you now going positive on Intel?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
What?
I am.
What?
What if...
I am.
What if Speaker Johnson and President Trump try to repeal the CHIPS Act, as we heard a lot about Friday night?
Wow. I mean, you just have empty shell buildings? I think it's hard.
Intel hasn't got any money yet anyway. They haven't met the certain
they won't meet it because
they need to.
They will meet it because your pals at Brookfield.
I need a minute here.
Your pals at Brookfield, they made it happen.
I wasn't here on Friday or Thursday, so I don't know if I missed this.
Try not to miss work, and you'll get the insight.
Oh, I was working on Thursday.
That's right. Oh, you came in. You had an idea that we were going to go with Zaslav. What was that? The Zaslav trade? What is that? I have to see Zaslav where I'm working.
Give me a quick summary of why you have suddenly changed course on Intel.
Because after the election, Qualcomm said they might or may not buy Intel. In the meantime, Intel bit the bullet, took the losses, took the charge. Their CFO prevailed. On the call, Gelsinger did not say, we're number one, we're the best. He admitted they almost had New York Giants status, if I can really go there. Anyone worse? Not to know of. And I feel like that it's a brand new Intel.
So it couldn't get worse. So it only can get better.
Perfect. God, he's good. He's really good.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I like it.
Is their incremental success come at the cost of AMD? Someone else?
No. I think that there's plenty of room for everybody. I think that what I liked about Intel was, one, Qualcomm could make that takeover bid because it's not a big company anymore, David. It's not a big company. But two, their balance sheet improved. I was surprised that their balance sheet could sustain the spending. Although I have to tell you, Carl, the balance sheet could use a little more emphasis if they want to emphasize if they're able to keep doing all this building. But they do have the PE partners.
I forgot about one important piece of news as it relates to one of the biggest stocks in the market, and at times the biggest because it's fluctuated with Apple back and forth. It's, of course, NVIDIA. Sarat, NVIDIA is going into the Dow. We learned that news the other day, and that's going to be Friday before the opening bell. Just give me a thought on that. If we talk about the influence of a Berkshire selling, then influencing how the stock trades as it relates to Apple, what does this mean for how the stock trades as it relates to NVIDIA?
I think it keeps its momentum. It's the relevance. It's taking Intel out and replacing with NVIDIA and basically saying, hey, this is a company that's going to be there for a long time. Now, you're not going to get that positive tailwind that if it came into an S&P, because there are not that many people that buy the Dow index. But the relevance of this to show that, hey, these products are going to be here for a while is really good for the stock.
All right, and NVIDIA now briefly pulling ahead of Apple in the market cap cap race, and there you see it's what 3.389 versus 3.382. Wow. It hasn't closed above Apple on that metric since June. So NVIDIA doing very nicely. Thank you very much. But neither are suffering, I wouldn't say.
It's impressive.
In market cap. And
we are back. Most mega cap names lower following last week's earnings reports, with the exception of NVIDIA, which has not reported yet. Those shares are rising on news the company will join the Dow this week. Here to share his view on the Mag 7 is the Dean of Valuation himself, Aswath Damodaran of NYU's Stern School of Business. Welcome back. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you, Scott.
As a shareholder and an observer, and both are valuable to us, you've had a chance now to digest these. What's your takeaway?
I think that these companies have become really good at playing the earnings game. I mean, you look at them; they look at the expectations. They come in 2 to 3% above. At this point, you're wondering why even bother with the expectations. They're going to beat it by 2 or 3%. I think the real story, though, is deeper in the earnings reports, and I think you see it play out with, for instance, Microsoft. The recognition that AI's products and services, the potential is there, but the promise is not being delivered in terms of monetization. So I look across the companies, no blowouts in either direction, but I think in many ways, what you need to be looking for is a change in narrative, and it's not coming right now. It's pretty much the same narrative that's been running them all year long.
Have you sold any of your own positions in these names? I just like to keep our viewers up to date, since, as I suggested, you're an observer, but you're a shareholder in many of these names, too.
I sold half of my NVIDIA about a year and a half ago, but since then I haven't traded down on any of them, and I haven't increased my position either. I feel pretty good about what I have because I frame it in terms of what I originally paid for these stocks, not what they traded at their high 3 months ago, 2 months ago. So I'm okay with where I am, and that's the only thing that I have to be as an investor, is to be okay with my own decisions.
Well, that's why you're a professor of finance at the Stern School of Business, because you got into those names early. What about semis? Yeah. We mentioned NVIDIA, it's, pushing Apple right there on the top of the market cap chain. It obviously has had an incredible run, but not every stock is in NVIDIA in this market. No. How are you judging the semis?
This is the one place where I really think you've seen, and this has really been true all spring into the summer, into the fall, where you've seen leadership really fracture or split. We know how good the NVIDIA chart is. We know how good Broadcom has been. Where's AMAT? Where's Lam Research? Where's ASML? Where's Samsung? It is, of what is perceived as leadership, I think it's the faultiest of that. It's the weakest under the surface. Only 25% of semis are actually above their 200-day moving average here. You do get some good seasonality with semis the next 4 or 6 weeks. I think if you got a bounce, I'd be more inclined to fade that bounce in semis than I would be chasing.
I asked you earlier about Berkshire selling Apple, so let me flip it and ask you about NVIDIA now and the inclusion in the Dow and how you're thinking about that based on what you've seen through the years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, on some level, the inclusion of Intel previously and not having a play on NVIDIA, which is 7% of the S&P 500, probably just made the Dow feel a little bit unrepresentative of the economy right now. Now, you could definitely make the case that it's just grabbing onto a high momentum play way after the fact, after its greatest gains. I was just looking at the NVIDIA versus Apple equation in terms of, market cap neck and neck right now. Well, NVIDIA has about a third of the revenue in the coming year and about half the net income. So you could obviously say it's a more expensive stock, but it's growing so much more quickly. So in the short term, first of all, there's no brand new reason to buy a stock because it's in the Dow. History says that's not at all a reason to buy. There's not a lot of money indexed to the Dow. It's much more about, the way that it's validating its current role in the new tech economy, which we sort of knew already. So again, I don't think it's a sell the news. Maybe it's a buy because of the capitulation on Intel. But at this point, it seems much more about the Dow trying to stay relevant.
All right, good stuff.